So with a world full of chaos, how do you kind of sell yourself a long-term vision?
Here's a simple answer. I tell myself this: what if they're wrong? What if there is no nuclear war in 3 years? What if I don't die? What if it all works out? Am I going to be the dummy who went to Costco, loaded up on tinfoil, and spent the last 3 years in my basement wearing hats? Am I going to be the guy that goes to all the gas stations and buys all the diesel fuel and pumps it all down into my basement because last year the world diesel supply was supposedly ending and we were all going to combust? It's not to say that there aren't some deep-seated issues, and I'm not saying that everything's a conspiracy theory either. I'm not saying that we shouldn't be informed. I'm not saying that there's not some crazy stuff going on behind the scenes. Again, I have my opinion on a lot of different things. What I'm saying is, what if it all works out? What if we figure it out? What if we are alive in 3 years? And you know what? I said that 3 years ago. I said that 3 years before that, and the 3 years before that. And while everybody's getting caught up in all this bullshit, everybody's focusing on getting their 2 minutes of fame, everybody's seeking attention, everybody wants to stand on their soapbox, what I did is I went 10 feet deep, I dug a trench, and I've just been building my empire. Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to the podcast. We are here today in studio. Hope you guys love the new studio. We are in studio live with super stud Colton Burr. Just before he gets up, I want to introduce this guy properly. This guy is a former athlete turned superstar insurance pro. He is on pace to be over $1 million a year earner in his 20s, and one of my great friends. He's with us today. So let's welcome Colton Burr. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing good, man. Thanks. It's so good. You feel like trying to make me blush over here.
Yeah, it's all good.
No, I'm excited. This is going to be a really cool. I think we're going to bring a lot of value today. And man, this studio that you guys put together is next level.
Yeah, it's pretty sweet. Yeah, I got to thank Beryl and the crew from Vertex for setting this up for us. So we love you, man. So are you heading down to Stampede at all this week?
I'm actually going to go later tonight. Me and Haley are going to take our oldest daughter, Blake. We're going to drop our new 4-month-old off at grandma's house. So we're going to take Blake and go do all the rides, have some fun. She got some new cowboy boots, so she's pretty pumped.
Nice. It's a safe play, right? You're going down with your wife?
Yeah.
Safe play. Can't get into any trouble.
Exactly. To be honest, this year, it just creeped up on us. Neither of us really thought about it too much. And we're like, the heat, the lines, the $15 drinks, we're like, I don't know, we just don't feel like going down and doing it this year. We still might end up going one night, who knows, but we just want to go have some fun as a family and try the new food that's down there. And
I love it.
Go from there.
For those of you guys that don't know what the Calgary Stampede is, it's the craziest outdoor rodeo that you've ever been to. It's 10 days. It's complete chaos. Millions of people from around the world come. It's a great time to go out, and or if you're from Calgary, it's a great time to get out of town. Everything shuts down. It's let's just say there's a lot of divorce that happens the week after.
I believe it.
There's also a baby boom that happens after Stampede.
Yep.
It's if you're looking for a wild time and you want to channel your inner cowgirl, inner cowboy, then come check out the Calgary Stampede.
Yeah, I think it's the number one sale of cowboy boots in the world. Might have to fact check that one, but I think all of the non-cowboy cowboys get.
Oh, and there's a rodeo, right?
Yeah.
And there's a rodeo attached.
There's drinking and some rodeo.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, hey, listen, we are excited. Today what we're going to be talking about, you guys, is really the overarching theme of finding and developing leaders. So, you guys have asked us a ton of questions. We've taken a lot of your feedback, a lot of questions that we've been asked over the last 4 or 5, 6 months. We got a bunch of them written down. Some of these are questions that Colton has been approached with. Some of these are questions that I've been approached with, and we're going to hit the topic today. And we know you guys are going to get some value watching this. So whether you're a new entrepreneur, you've been building a business for a while, you're thinking about getting into the industry, or you don't have a freaking clue why you're here, I think you're going to enjoy the next few minutes with us. So yeah, you ready to hit it, Colton?
Yeah, let's get into it.
All right.
So there's a bunch of really good questions to go through today. This one I kind of wanted to start here because I think when a lot of people get into business, no matter what it is, what industry, what they're doing, it's oftentimes just themselves. Sometimes they'll get into business with a friend or something like that, but they do everything they possibly can on their own. And then there comes this transition period where you have to now start to expand. And I think the question along, what's like the number one trait to look for within either a new leader or a top performer, somebody you'd either want to have on your team or somebody that is already maybe within your organization that you want to identify and then help lift them up? Would be the number one traits that you look for?
Woo, that's $1 million question right off the bat.
Yeah, hey,
we're
getting right into it.
Look, I'm sure that any leader, including yourself, would say that there's not particularly one thing, but there is one character that I look for above everything. in somebody who I'm going to work with, somebody I want to spend time with, somebody that I know that if I invest in this person, I'm going to get a return on it, somebody that if I recruit, there's a higher likelihood that they're going to stick with it. Mm-hmm. And that quality is desire, burning desire. And it's funny because you've probably experienced it in your business, is that sometimes you recruit somebody that has it, and when they lose it, they lose all momentum. And there's literally nothing that, I mean, there is certain things you can do to work with that person, but there's literally nothing that you can do as a leader that's going to really get that person to the next level until they go deep to find that desire.
I think, yeah, that's huge. Actually, that's a really good point to bring up because I can't remember who the very first time I heard it say it, but you can't change people. You can just help put them in a position to decide to change for themselves. And I think desire, that hits the point really hard, that like you're never going to get where you want to go without the ability to look inside and say, look, I am willing to pay the price and go through a whole bunch of crap to get to this destination or where I want to be.
And is it me, or are people soft? Like,
oh yeah.
Like are they softer than they used to be?
Yeah. So there's a few years between you and I. The people
a couple years.
People watching can probably tell I've got a baby face over here. But I think just the difference in generations, both mine, yours, and probably definitely like your parents. I don't know if it's society, if it's social media, if it's people just kind of forgetting or lowering their standards. But I think the culture has gotten really soft. I think a good word that doesn't get used a lot, or people don't really focus on developing, is grit. There's very little grit these days, I'd say, in culture.
Yeah, and when we could do a whole podcast on why people are soft and how society is conditioning people, and the institutions are creating the real pandemic is not COVID, it's pansyitis. An entire generation of pansies.
I want to back it up just for a sec, because when you were talking here, you said investing in people, like what's going to be your ROI on investing in somebody. And for someone who doesn't come from a leadership or CEO, like a position of like you're running an organization and you need to know how to spend your time wisely, can you maybe just elaborate on that? Because someone who doesn't come from that perspective, they might think, oh, you're just trying to invest in someone and get something out of them. But maybe for the people that are watching that want to know how to best spend their time to get the best ROI, like you said, why is investing your time in people to help get an ROI or something out of them important? And what does that mean to you?
Yeah, I think that's a good question. You gotta, first of all, for those of you watching, you gotta think of it from an entrepreneur standpoint. So I think that a lot of people, they have a hard time seeing it from a business standpoint. And then once you look at it from a business standpoint, you're dealing with a real human being. These are real people. Yeah. But there's the friendship hat and there's the business hat. Okay. If you're not ready for me to pour into you and you're not ready for me to invest in you, it doesn't change my relationship with you as a friend. It just means that my time is better spent elsewhere. If you think about it, I want to have a relationship with my wife too. Yeah. I want to raise my 3 kids. I want to try and stay relatively fit. I have severe Crohn's disease. I deal with shit all the time. So what a lot of people do is, because they spend time in the wrong area, they get so frustrated and they're like, oh, like I can never get it going, and my wife's mad at me, and I never see my kids, and I'm not making a lot of money. It's because you're spending time in the wrong area. So as an entrepreneur, you got to look at it and go, if this person's not ready to be moved and be changed, why am I spending time with that person? Why am I investing time in that person who's not willing to meet me 90% of the way, who doesn't have a burning desire, who's not ready to run? Right? What they need from me is they need me to check in and love on them and build them up. And that requires a different level of investment than if you're a freaking stud and you're ready for me to pour into you, help you run. And I know that with 3, 4, 5 months in my back pocket, I can teach you how to make 20, 30, 40 grand a month. I'm going to spend my time over there. And it's not always a monetary thing. It depends what the goal is. Yeah. Like if your goal is to build a profiting organization to get to, to build a business that's grossing, let's say $10 million a year, you define 10 guys or 10 girls that you can teach to build $1 million business. And that's your $10 million a year. So it's really looking at the whole thing. What do you want your life to look like? What do you want your business to look like? And then evaluating the people, the prospects that you have in your pipe, same as a hockey team in prospect camp, same as an NBA team. You show up to NFL training camp, there's 100 people. Right. Where do we spend our time? Who has the most potential? It doesn't mean the guy that's not ready for you to pour into him is a bad guy. It doesn't mean you don't call him on his birthday. It just means that you have to invest your time in the area. You're going to burn the hell out, man.
I think that's huge, man. I think that's a very important thing for people to understand, because sometimes you can feel as a leader saying, hey, I need to spend time investing in someone. In the back of your mind, you are kind of hoping that you're going to get something out of it. Of course, you want your business to grow, you want your organization to grow, but also don't forget the fact that you're going to help change that person's life. Mm-hmm. You spending time with them is also going to give them the most ROI on your time put in. Mm-hmm. You're going to help them grow an income, help them create the life that they want as well. Mm-hmm. And I like your sports analogy there, talking about like, hey, just because like if you have 100 guys show up to training camp, just because we spend our time on 20 doesn't mean that the other 80 are bad guys. No. It's just not the right time.
It's not the right time.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm sure there's people watching this. I'm sure I'm going to get some messages, be like, oh, you just spend time with people that you want to make money off of and blah, blah, blah. That's a bunch of horseshit. That's not how it works, right? You can literally bang your head against the wall for an entire year trying to get 3 people motivated when they have no internal inspiration.
No desire, like
no
you brought up.
Freaking desire. Mm-hmm. And what are you going to do? You're going to do nothing. You're going to burn yourself out. You're going to think about quitting. You're not making any money. Your wife's going to get at you. The whole thing falls apart. Mm. So it's huge.
Yeah, that's massive. I think that's a golden nugget for you guys watching right now. That's
Little
nugget
number 1.
Let's dive into a couple more of these. So let's dive into a couple more of these. And actually, I think this is a great one to follow up. Is how do you overcome something like imposter syndrome? And I'm sure you've heard that term before. Maybe you've dealt with it or haven't dealt with it yourself. But when you're getting into business, you're trying to develop your leadership skills and become someone who is of high enough value to lead an organization, or even if you're not leading a large team at whatever you're doing, maybe just being the one that can actually deliver on the promise you gave to your clients, right? If you're a realtor, can you really get the job done? If you're a lawyer, can you actually get the case won for them? Can you do that? Mm-hmm. Because we all, whether someone shows it or not, we all have self-doubts within us, and we're all like, hey, I don't know if I can actually do this. Mm-hmm. Am I really the person who's going to go and build a team like this or go and accomplish these things in our life? I think most people struggle with imposter syndrome at some point. So what would you say to someone who's struggling with that really hard and trying to overcome it?
Well, the first thing I would say is I would help them understand that all of their heroes in their life all struggle with the same thing.
Yeah.
I think the biggest mistake we make, Burr, is that we look at these people that are ahead of us. We look at these leaders that have been doing it longer. We look at people more successful, selling more homes, right? Selling more policies, making more money. We look at them and go, man, I just can't wait till I get to where they're at and I don't have that issue anymore. Right? Even guys like me, it's like, I feel that because I'm trying to get into this, I'm trying to get into the next room, Right. So first is just acknowledging that your job is to stumble forward and stay confused. If you get to a point where you have it all figured out and you're the expert in the room and you don't feel like that anymore, you've completely stopped growing, you're getting smoked by your peers, and you have no desire to get into the small room, right? I feel like that. I'm trying to get into the 8-figure per year room, right? So I have imposter syndrome going, man, like, do I deserve to be in that room? Do I have those traits? Can I do it? You're talking more maybe on the client side as an advisor. It's the same thing. It's just different. Mm-hmm. I think the way to overcome that is to get around people that are further ahead than you, right? Because if you feel like you have imposter syndrome and you're doubting yourself and let's say you're like a 5 or 6 out of 10 in your confidence and your belief and you're hanging around 3s and 4s, you're looking around at the people that you're hanging around going, man, I don't deserve to be up there.
Yeah. You're trying to think and act like you're an 8, 9, or 10, but you're spending all your time and listening and talking about the same things that like a 3, 4, 5 would.
Yeah. So you're not helping yourself. Exactly. Yeah. So you're exactly right. You have these goals to be up here, but you're hanging around people that have this like lower mindset.
Right.
And the questions that they're asking, the things they're talking about, right? They're probably, a lot of them are talking about going out during Stampede and getting wasted and things like that and stuff like that. So first of all, it's normal. Everybody feels like that. And the way to overcome it is to get around people that are at that next level and just get to know them and ask them questions. And what you'll realize is that you already have a lot of qualities that are going to make you great.
Right.
Right. So you should feel like that. That tells me that you're on the right track.
And do you think it's something that ever ends?
I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I think it just means you care. I think it means that you have a freaking goal. Like you want to be somebody more. You want to, I mean, it happens in my marriage too. Like, it's like, you know, you ever felt like, man, like, what do I do to deserve this? My wife, mm-hmm. You know, there's times where I'm like, man, like she's so much better to me than I am to her. Right. And it just forces me to want to get better.
Right.
And I guess if I get to a point where I'm like, oh, I'm the best husband in the world and I fully deserve her. And, you know, you obviously want to have a bit of that. You don't want it to play in your conscience the wrong way, right. But I think I'm always going to have a little bit of that.
So, and you could almost look at it like a helpful thing, like a superpower, that when you start to really feel that imposter syndrome, that's your little trigger or your little key to start growing again.
Yeah.
To start actually putting intentional focus on getting better at whatever area of your life it is that you see creeping in. I
think you put that great. I think that as soon as that happens, that should be a trigger for you to ask yourself a question. Who am I hanging around? I feel insecure. I'm not sure if I belong. I don't know. My old identity is pulling me back. Because really, that's what it is. Your old identity is meeting your new identity, and they're having a battle. They're fighting. And one of those identities is going to win. And the identity that's going to win is the one that you are leaning more in towards. And when you're getting on the right people, getting in the right rooms, reading the right books, around the right mentors, listening to the right podcasts, you're going to feel more inclined that you identify with that group than the other group. And that's how you overcome it. And overcome that level of it, because there'll always be the next level of it.
Definitely. So yeah, you've got two identities that are fighting, and the one that's going to win is the one where you take action in the real world, not just in your mind, but in the real world towards accomplishing.
Yeah. And I guess it's easier said than done.
That's true. With everything we talk about, disclaimer, everything we talk about is easier said than done.
But we just gave a couple of tangible tips on how to overcome it. So yeah, work at it, baby.
Perfect. So that's a question where someone could come to you and be like, hey, I've got imposter syndrome. How do you help me out? Here's the maybe more flip side to this coin. And I put this one in here because I have been this person. I have had people on my team be this person, and I'm sure you've dealt with this.
Is it a jerk?
At times. No, I'd say I'm pretty nice. I don't think I'm a jerk. Sometimes I can be a jerk. Sometimes people just don't like what I have to say, whether whether they believe it or not, but it's true. Anyway, how do you help someone who's an ask hole? And before we get censored, I did not say what you thought. I said an ask hole. Asking all the questions, wanting all the goodies and the nuggets on how to get to where their next level is or whatever they're trying to accomplish. But then they take that information and they do nothing with it. Zero. How do you help someone like that?
Well, I appreciate you opening up about the fact that you've been an asshole before, because
guilty.
I have been there too. And I was the guy that would go to conferences and I'd fill my pages full of notes, and all I needed was 3 minutes with this guy and 2 minutes with her and 1 minute. And if I could just get a picture with my lead, it would rub off. And I just have to ask him, how does he make a phone call? And how does she, and what I had pages and pages and pages and pages of notes from leaders. I was overexposed. I had everything that I needed and more. And I was that same person. I think everybody at a point, and really what that is, let's identify really what that is that it's somebody looking for the shortcut.
Yeah. 100%.
It's somebody looking for the one golden nugget that's going to get them from A to B the quickest.
I agree 100% on that.
So I think the first thing to realize is, like, when we're in that situation, why we're doing that or why we are that guy is because we feel like there's a better way. We feel like there's a faster way. Now, the way to handle that as a leader when you're leading somebody who's an asshole is, first of all, I think it's important to identify that with them. I think it's okay to sit them down and I lead, the way I lead is I like my people I'm leading and mentoring to have a high level of self-awareness.
Right.
So you got to create a safe environment, high level of self-awareness. I had it on my trainer call today. We opened it up pretty good because I wanted them to have a high level of self-awareness about where they're actually at compared to where they need to be. And a lot of them are on track.
You can't, it's very hard to operate any business with any sort of delusion. Once delusion starts creeping in and you're not aware of what the actual situation is, that's where I've seen guys get off track for like 6, 8, 12 months.
100%. And longer. I've been in the business way longer than you. I've seen people off track, Colton, for 10 years. Yeah, they've been off the track for 10 years. So back to the ask call. Here's what I do when I'm dealing with somebody who's rapid fire. And by the way, have you ever noticed the people that are like that? They're not even listening to your answer. They're just waiting till you stop speaking because they want the next question. I can always tell when I'm mentoring somebody and they have like 5-6 questions and they're not even listening to what I'm saying. The next question's already on their tongue. And I'm thinking in the back of my head, this guy's going to be gone by the end of the week.
Right.
This gal doesn't have a shot at winning until she comes to that realization.
Do you feel they're ever asking, hoping that you say what they want you to hear or what they want to hear, that you're going to tell them what they want?
For sure. And they're asking it in a way that they're trying to like gear the answer,
right,
to validate what they're doing, to like convince themselves they're on the right track. Yeah. But here's what I do. I challenge them to do something. So like if someone's hammering me with 2-3 questions, I'm mentoring them, I'm going to stop them and I'm going to give them a piece of advice. And here's what I'm going to say. Go do that. And when you do that, hit me up. Hit me up. Not even, hey, let's meet next Friday to see how it went. No. Forget that. I'm not meeting with you next Friday to see how it went. Go do that, right? Go prospect for 3 hours, get 15 numbers, hit me up, and we'll book the next meeting. And then we'll go from there. Go book 8 qualified meetings in your market. Go gather some client information, hit me up, and then we'll go from there. Go recruit 3 people this month, hit me up, and then we'll go from there. So you slow it down, small challenge. When they meet it, my door is wide open. It also creates a filter for you as the leader.
I was going to say there's something there too that some people listening may or may not pick up on as a leader is you're very, and I've noticed this from you over the years, is you're very good at protecting your time. When you get to the position where you're running a large organization in any company, your time becomes very scarce. And if there's an ask hole after an ask hole after an ask hole, it's going to be very difficult to get things done if you're giving all your time away.
Yeah.
So being able to, challenge them and then say, hey, once that's done, come sit and we'll keep you moving. For those that are never going to actually do or use the advice you give them, it's a good way to keep moving. We
circle back a lot today on valuing your time, don't we?
Yeah.
Big part of building, developing, finding leaders is valuing your time. I help build you up. Do you remember what I used to do when you were brand new in the business, or what I do with people when they come to me and they're like, hey, I want 20 minutes of your time.
I know exactly what
I need 30 minutes of your time.
Yep.
So here's what beginners do. They go, yeah, sure. When do you want to meet? Like, let's meet. No problem. Do you remember what I do?
I know exactly what you say. Hey, fantastic. Let's meet for 20 minutes after Saturday training.
100%.
So you say, hey, let's get you in an environment where you're going to get some value and get some takeaways. And then if you actually show up, I'm already going to be there. Let's meet.
100%. That's what I do. So genius. What Colton's referring to is that when somebody asks me for my time, and let's say we have training on Wednesday night, and a lot of people that ask you for time or ask me for time, a lot of them, not all of them, a lot of them barely show up. They're not really showing up. They're not really active. They just want all the answers. So what I'll say, hey, show up Wednesday night, come find me, and then we'll book a time to meet. Come to training, right? So they'll say, hey, Holbrook, I need half hour of your time, man. I'm really fired up. That's awesome, brother. Super fired up, right? Hit me up after training. I'll be at the office. Come find me on Wednesday, and they'll book a time. And guess what it does? It filters out half the people.
Yep.
Half the people don't even show up to Wednesday training. I'm like,
those half that don't show up typically don't have the number one desire you just mentioned, or the number one trait you just mentioned, which is desire.
Part of building leaders is setting up filters. You got to set up filters. It's a filtration process, right? And then guess what happens? Of the half that do show up, half of them get their question answered at the training. So now I'm only dealing with 25%, right? And it's not to say the ones that got the value out of Wednesday don't need me. It just means they got that one answer answered. I don't need to answer that question. And I went from having to sit down with 100% of the people that asked me to 25%, which frees me up all this time to do other stuff.
I love that.
I think that's a big one.
Absolutely.
It's huge.
It's a disease, being an asshole. If you have been an asshole, go and talk to your doctor.
Don't be an asshole.
Be an asshole. All right. Well, let's switch it up a little bit. So on the topic of like developing leaders, how do you give someone hope who maybe has none? You know, some people, they get into business, and look, I don't care what business you run, you're going to get kicked in the teeth at some point, and probably quite often. And it can be demoralizing. It can be, if you don't have a vision or something that you're fighting for, I think it can be very difficult. So when people do start to lose hope or feel like there's none left, how do you give them some more? How do you sit them down and actually say, hey, here's what we could do. Here's what's possible.
Yeah, I think that's a good question. I think the part that you mentioned that's important is that, you know, when they lose hope, it's hard to get started when you have no hope. Like recruiting somebody into a business that has no hope
to begin with,
yeah. And no desire and no, like we're talking about resuscitation, like you got to find the paddles. So I mean, I require people to come to the table with some level of desire, a goal, something they're chasing.
I think it's important, just not to cut you off, but like I think people, when they're getting started, should have something they want to work towards, some kind of a goals and dreams, a list even of some things that they want to accomplish. Because if you don't at least have that to get off the ground and get running, like, what are you going to do?
But so you come in, you're in business and you get kicked in the teeth, like you said, and you feel down and out. And most of my best players have been down and out at times. We've all been down and out. So how do you give someone hope? What I do is that when somebody's feeling down, what I do, Burr, is I bring their goals really in tight. I start focusing on short term, right? It's like, you know, baby steps. Now, I'm still thinking, you know, we're still talking about the big things. And man, remember when you start, it's going to be so great when you retire your spouse and that trip and your kids. Like, I'm still talking about those things because, you know, you obviously want to make sure that they, you know, have some level of inspiration, that they're still excited about something. But then I bring the steps in real tight. I just focus on the next win. A lot of times when people are feeling hopeless, it's because they haven't got a lot of wins in a while, or they're really focusing on all the shit that's going on.
Right.
They're focusing on the client that canceled. They're focusing on the teammate that's quitting, and they're saying things like, I can't, and it's not working, and I'm failing, and everybody this, and they're using words like everybody's rescheduling and everybody's canceling. And it's just a mindset. So what I do is I bring it back again. I create a level of self-awareness. I'll talk to them about their language. I'll be like, listen, here's the words you're using. This is where your mindset's at. And then I'll really focus on getting some wins. We'll set like a 30-day game plan, knock down some dominoes, right? Focus on, hey, let's get on 4 meetings this week. And maybe I'll bring them right back in home. I'll bring them under my wing. Let's go on 4 meetings together. Let me help you get a couple wins. And then the whole time I'm building them back up. I'm pouring into them. You know, when someone's down and out, that's not the time to challenge them. It's a time to build them up, right? So I'm bringing them in. I'm reminding them of how great it's going to be when, because I've been there. I know how great it's going to be when. We'll tie in some of their long-term goals. I'll bring them under my wing, set some realistic 10, 20, 30, 40-day goals, get back involved in their business. You know, if there's somebody I'm mentoring, work with them a little bit, get them some wins, remind them why they're amazing, call them on their mindset, challenge them on the way they think, right? As they start to get more confidence, you start to challenge them more and on the way they think, and you start to build them out of the hole.
I love something that you said there that I think is important to highlight. Is you said, like, bring them back in under your wing. When you lose hope, I think a lot of the times it's because you feel like you have done it all or know it all, and you just don't know what else you can do. And I think that, like, in our company, it's kind of built in, and we're very spoiled, where mentorship, guidance, and learning is always an ongoing process, even though some of us stop at some points and we need a reminder. But even in any other industry, I think it's important to note that just be willing to go become the student again. If you feel like you've lost hope, just say, hey, you know what? I need to go and learn something. I need to maybe check my ego. I need to put that to the side and just go and learn and become a student of whatever it is that you're doing again, so that you can be built back up.
And you notice too, like when people are down and out, what do? They isolate themselves.
Always. They lean out.
They lean out.
Yeah.
And they're on an island all by themselves. They're on the pity island.
With all their thoughts and all the BS that they're telling themselves.
And it's a lonely place. It's a bunch of bullshit. And they get in these negative cycles, and they can't get out because they're not around good people, and they're only around themselves, right? Or they're around low identity people and they get stuck. And we started this podcast by talking about people that get stuck for a year, 2 years, 10 years, right? Because they feel comfortable living in that state, right? There's a comfort to being miserable.
Yeah. It's very true. You don't want to lean into something that's going to make you feel uncomfortable or talk to more people that are probably going to call you out on your bullshit and say, dude, you need to stop this and you need to just move forward.
Yeah. What have you done? Like, what have you done when you've lost hope? Like, what are some things that you've done?
A big thing for me, I'm a fairly self-motivated guy, I would say. But when I lose hope, and this is something I've learned through just being a part of the culture that we're in, is I do lean into my leadership, but I also lean into myself. I get by myself and I really focus on like, where do I want to go and what do I want to do? One of my favorite things to do in the world when I just don't feel like things are going the way I want is I'll go up and I'll pull up realtor.com and I'll get on there and I'll start shopping at homes that are like $1 million, $2 million, $5 million, $6 million, $10 million. And I'll look at all these things. I'm like, this is insane. But then I'll start to picture like, what's our life going to be like when we have a $5 million home and we've got a tennis court in the back and we've got a pool and we've got, a 7-car garage and we've got all these things where we can invite our friends over and we can entertain and we can have fun and we can build relationships. And, what are our kids' lives going to be like growing up in an environment like that, a house full of people and other kids and friendships and community.
Love it.
So I get excited about that. And then I try to I don't know if this is a word, but tangibilize it. Make it tangible.
Make it tangible.
Make it tangible.
There we go. Hey, you can do this too.
I'll say, okay, on a $2 million home, my mortgage is going to be probably north of $9,000. Maybe let's say $11,000 a month. Go in, do a little mortgage calculator. So $2 million mortgage, 20, 30, 40% down. Here's my payment. Okay, well, what do I need to do to move myself towards a business that provides that kind of income? And that only becomes 10% of my income. And then it starts giving me actionable steps to move forward.
That's great advice for all young entrepreneurs. I mean, you just laid out literally a blueprint on how to get yourself out of the hole. And I think that, I think a lot of people are going to get value from that. So it's good.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, let's flip the script because this is an interesting one.
All right.
You talk about all the BS that's out there and all the, you watch a lot of news?
I don't watch a lot of news, but I do stay informed.
I think that's important.
I schedule time every week to stay informed because I'm on social media a lot, right? So I see little clips here, little clips there. What I'll do every week is schedule time to hop on and just be informed.
So what would you say the overarching feel is out there in culture right now in society? How are most people feeling?
I think most people are afraid. I think most people are running scared. I think most people are buying into the bullshit, whether it's from the government, whether it's from their parents, whether it's from the news controlling the narrative. I think a lot of people are bought in hook, line, and sinker. And then you also have these people that are so eager to be heard. They're literally ready to push all their relationships out the door, everything they've ever been taught, just so that they can get their 2 minutes of fame on social media. And they're literally selling the farm for what? For an empty future.
Yeah, for TikTok views.
For TikTok views.
The reason I asked this question is because now I'm still fairly young, so I don't have 40 years of life experience. But a trend that I've noticed is if the news and the culture and society makes you think that the world is falling apart, that's what you're going to believe. That's what you're going to think. And I wanted to ask you this question. How do you sell yourself a long-term vision? Because anybody who wants to do something great, they're not just thinking 3-6 months from now, trying to make a quick buck. They're thinking legacy, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years from now, and building something that's really going to last. How do you sell yourself that dream and get excited about it when everywhere you look, it feels or seems like the world is on fire and it's going to, heck, we might be at war in 2 years, or the world might not even be around. Like how do you get someone excited about a long-term vision? Well,
I have a fairly simple answer for how I stay excited. Because it's easy to get caught up in all the shit that's going on. It's easy to get caught up and look, I think it's important to, I'm not coming at this from one side or another, but it's so messed up. It's like you're either right or you're left. Either you're on this side or you're on this side. Yesterday, we were driving home from a great dinner with our president. And literally on one side of the street were 200-300 people with signs being like gender at birth and you're either born a male, female, like literally honk, like hundreds of people. And then on the other side of the street were the people that believed something different signs. And they were yelling at each other. Like I was like, man, like just someone's going to walk into this crosswalk and they're just going to go at it. You know, they're just going to go at it. It's like, where's the middle?
Yeah.
It's, you know, how do we come to the table? So I guess, you know, we can even go into COVID. I don't care what your beliefs are. I don't give a shit if you were vaccinated or not vaccinated. That's none of my goddamn business, right? Pardon my language. But I remember when this whole vaccination thing came out, I got 3-4 phone calls from people. That first phone calls from the 3-4 people were, hey, like if you don't get vaccinated, you know, you can't come around us. You can't, you know, you're going to be part of the reason that people die. You're part of the problem. You know, you should probably make a post about it, how important it is to be vaccinated. People calling me out.
Yeah.
Okay. This is like when it first came out. I hadn't even decided what I wanted to do yet.
Right.
And then a couple months later, I was getting more phone calls, probably I think about 3 or 4 from the other side going, hey, you know that if you get vaccinated, you'll be dead in 2 years. I'm like, what do you mean? They're like, yeah, you're going to die. You know, I had one buddy call me up and say, you know, if you get vaccinated, you're going to shed, and the cells that you shed are going to infect everybody. And I can't have you in our house with shedding, because we're all going to die. So 2 completely separate sides,
and just to
totally effed up, like that they would actually call me and tell me this, completely effed up, but it's just the way that people were going.
And just to like pause on this before we kind of actually get into answering the question, it seems like there's always something to be fighting about. 100%. Always. You pick any topic across the board, there's always something that people can be fighting about right now. And I do think that's intentional. I do think that there's a power that is always trying to keep people fighting, because what it does is it distracts them. It distracts them from actually focusing on the things that are going to move their life forward.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm going to focus on this so that I can be lazy and get fat and sit on the couch and collect checks.
Yeah.
From the government.
But because you're talking about this, you're putting in work, you're doing good.
Yeah. Yeah. Don't bother me. I'm on a crusade.
Yeah.
Right. I'm doing God's work.
Yeah.
I'm doing God's work.
Yeah.
Making no money, being broke, but I'm going to be heard.
Yeah. I'm very strong on this topic.
Very strong on this topic.
Yeah.
Find me on TikTok.
Yeah.
Right.
So with a world full of chaos, how do you kind of sell yourself a long-term vision?
Here's a simple answer. I tell myself this: what if they're wrong? What if there is no nuclear war in 3 years? What if I don't die? What if it all works out? Am I going to be the dummy who went to Costco, loaded up on tinfoil, and spent the last 3 years in my basement wearing hats? And am I going to be the guy that goes to all the gas stations and buys all the diesel fuel and pumps it all down into my basement? Because last year the world diesel supply was supposedly ending, and we were all going to, I think, combust. Not to say that there aren't some real issues, not to say that there aren't some deep-seated issues. And, you know, I'm not saying that everything's a conspiracy theory either. I'm not saying that we shouldn't be informed. I'm not saying that there's not some crazy stuff going on behind the scenes, okay? Again, I have my opinion on a lot of different things. What I'm saying is, what if it all works out? What if we figure it out? What if we are alive in 3 years? And you know what? I said that 3 years ago. I said that 3 years before that, and the 3 years before that. And while everybody's getting caught up in all this bullshit, everybody's focusing on getting their 2 minutes of fame, everybody's seeking attention, everybody wants to stand on their soapbox, what I did is I went 10 feet deep, I dug a trench, and I've just been building my empire so that no matter what happens, I'm going to be okay. The best thing that we can do is not be a part of the problem. The best way that I can overcome all this stuff is that to prepare myself so that if some of it does happen, and I'm not naive, some of it is happening. There's a lot of control coming right now from the government. There's a lot of crazy things going on behind the scenes that I have no control over. So I don't know exactly what it's going to look like in 5 years, but if I'm still alive and the earth's still turning, I'm going to be more financially solid than I've ever been. I'm going to have more options than my neighbor who's in the basement adjusting the wire antennas, right? Because the whole damn world's falling apart.
Yeah.
That's my philosophy. I'm going to work because my kids are watching. Am I going to get up every day and be caught up in this news cycle and fear mongering and all this crap? Or do I want my example to my kids to be, man, dad gets up, goes to work every day, gets the job done. So that when shit happens in 5 years, no matter what it is, I'm better prepared. I'm better equipped.
Yeah. Is whether those things come true or not, you're going to be in a better position to handle them.
Yeah.
And I really like what you said, just control the controllable. So how would you say from a business perspective, from a leadership perspective, how does social media impact your business and also your life? What are maybe some positives, some negatives, some things that people should focus on or things they should really stay away from?
Yeah, I mean, it's only a negative if you get caught up in the negatives, right? If you're doing it for the right reasons and you stay in the positive and you control what you watch, I don't think it's a negative at all, unless you get carried away with how much time you're spending on it,
right?
And that's not moving the needle. Social media, I'll just be straight up. Those people that are in business that are not leveraging social media to build their business are not only going to get left behind, they're going to get steamrolled. They're going to get absolutely crushed. There are people today in our industry that are running the business like it was ran 10 years ago, and they are running out of steam. They're going to burn out, and it's not going to end well. There are people that are making 100 grand today that are going to be making 80 to 90 grand a year, 10, 15, 20 years from now because their resistance to getting on social media. It'll be the biggest single mistake that people, not only in our industry, but in business in general, be the single biggest mistake looking back 10, 15 years from now if they don't do it. And it's today. If you look back the last 5 years, the people that haven't been on it, it's the biggest single mistake that they've made over the last 5 years. So how's it impact my business? It's changed everything. It's changed everything.
Okay. And so to that point, because I understand what you're saying, it's important. But in what ways? What ways? Because that's more of a statement of, hey, it's really important, which I do agree with. People need to be on there. But in what ways is it going to be a positive impact in your business?
Well, firstly, nobody gives a shit what you have to say until they feel like they know who you are. Mm-hmm. Okay. So what social media is a window into who you are, right? If you're going to go prospect and try and gain clients and try and recruit people and attract people, everybody wants to know who you are. They want to know a window into who you are. Like, who is Colton Burr? What's his energy? What's his message? What kind of a guy is he? People can read that on social media. So it's this free opportunity to brand yourself, right? To let people in a little bit. Mm-hmm. It makes you relatable. People can connect to you. They feel like they know you when they're buying from you. They feel like they know you when they join you, right? You prospect somebody, you go get a client, they look you up on social media. If you haven't made a post in a year and a half, right? In today's day and age, you look like a serial killer.
That's so true.
The only people that haven't posted in the last year and a half, or aren't on social media or aren't posting somewhere are serial killers.
Isn't that funny though? When Facebook, I can remember Facebook first coming around, and you get those little like, hey, Jonathan just poked you. Jonathan, you're freaking weird. What are you doing?
Stop poking me.
Stop poking me. But now if you go on social media and you've got 3 photos and one of them's like hiding in the corner, you're the weirdo.
You're the weirdo.
So you were the weirdo when you were the first one getting on it, but I think it's so a part of culture. And I think a lot of people go there to get their information and understanding.
Yep.
Sometimes a good thing, sometimes a bad thing. But I think you need to be on it.
Dude, I haven't been to a company's website in 3-4 years. I go right to their social media page.
Same.
I want to see some videos. I want to see from the owner. I want to see some testimonials on social media. The other thing is that once you do acquire teammates and clients, it's a retention tool. You create an environment. Everybody wants to be a part of something, right?
True.
So you create this environment that they could be a part of. They can follow the journey. I mean, like even you, like if you guys aren't following Colton, go follow him at Colton Burr on Instagram. He does great content. People follow your journey. Right? They watch how much you've grown. They appreciate, like, man, I was Colton's client like when he was first starting off, and they're proud of your journey. Mm-hmm. Your teammates are proud of the journey. You can connect with your teammates on social media. You can communicate with them. They can reach out to you. I mean, if you want to get big in business, you got to be reaching a lot of clients and a lot of teammates. It's another way for them to access you. So you become more accessible, more relatable. They hear from you all the time, so you become more reliable. You're a more reliable source of news information.
And that actually kind of connects with what we were talking about when it comes to protecting your time is you're not always going to have time to reach everybody. You want to speak to everybody on your team. You want to speak to everybody in your organization, but you're not always going to be able to physically. You just don't have the time. So I love what you're saying there, where it's in the ability for them to feel like they're still getting the information from you. They're still getting some touch points. They're still getting the love and care that they need from you, but you don't have to physically be present with them.
I was trying to do the math the other day on the last 5 years, how much of my residual income is come through social media, from social media as a result of social media. And I don't know the exact number, and I'm being very conservative, but it's over 50 grand a month residual. Just the passive part of my income, about 50,000 a month residual of what I earn per month. I earn a lot more than that, but of my income, 50,000 a month has come over the last 5 years passively just from being on social media. So that's $600K a year. Like, what's that worth? What's that worth long term? Like, how much time should I be investing in it? What does that look like? It's been up to now, it's been the single biggest game changer in my family tree in terms of building a legacy for my family, has been getting on social media and utilizing it, understanding it, and putting a shit ton of work into it.
And that's the importance. And maybe this will be a video for another time, but maybe just quickly for people that are watching, what are some tangibles for social media? I'm brand new today. I get it, Steve. You know what? I need to get on social media. You're right. I'm going to do it tomorrow. What are some tangibles people can do to start doing well?
Yeah. And I got a free course coming out. You guys can hit me up. You know, I got some free content around that. But you just got to start. So you got to sit down. You got to figure out who you are on social media. You got to figure out what's your message, right? What do you want people to know about you? And then make a game plan, and then lay it all out, and then batch your content, right? Film all your videos, get all your stuff done on Sunday, maybe get some help if you need to, pre-plan it all. Like it takes time, right? How about getting help from somebody who knows what the hell they're doing?
That's huge. That's huge.
Right?
So you're telling me I should not be filming 4 or 5 videos in the middle of the day on a Tuesday?
Well, unless that's your time to do it, right? Now, people are afraid to invest. They're like, oh, you don't need a fancy camera. You don't need to spend thousands of dollars, but you got to spend a bit of money to make money, right? You don't be afraid to spend $500, $1,000, a couple $1,000 a month to invest in your brand, right? I use a company called Vertex Digital. They help me with all my content. I think they're the best in the industry today, what they do. But I'm not taking 40 hours a week away from my business to build my social media content. I probably spend 10 hours a month creating content.
And you pump out a lot of like quality content, a lot consistently too.
Yeah, I think
that's saying a lot.
I think we pump out 2 to 3 posts a day maybe more, maybe 5 posts a day on all platforms. Times 7, that's 35, right? Times 4, what do we have? We're like 130, 140 pieces of content a month on 10 hours.
It's not like, hey, here's what I'm eating for lunch.
Yeah. And again, I just shared with you how much it's fed back into my income. So yeah, is that worth 10 hours a month? Yeah, I think it has been.
Well, I think that answers that for the people that are kind of curious. Well, look, we'll wrap it up here. I think this is a really good one, because depending on who you talk to, you can go talk to Gary V, and Gary V, he incredible entrepreneur, and he talks all about following your passion. That's the only thing you should do. And then you talk to some people that say, I don't give a shit what your passion is. You just need to go to work and do something. You could make $1 million shoveling elephant crap at the zoo, right? When it comes to people getting into business, should they just follow their passion?
Yeah, I think that's a huge myth, that you got to get into business following your passion. I know, Gary V talks about it, but so what he doesn't talk about is almost everybody fails that follows their passion. Almost everybody fails in business that goes into business specifically to follow their passion. Doesn't mean you can't be really good at it, but here's why I say that. When you follow your passion in a business, you expect to be passionate all the time about it.
Yes.
Dude, you can follow your passion in a business, but just so you know, it's going to go from your passion to the freaking grind. Yeah. Like, let's say you love baking pies. You love baking pies. I was a baker at a restaurant. I love baking pies. Evenings and weekends, I bake a pie for some ex.
If you've had Steve's banana flambe in the past, it's delicious.
My wife always jokes. She's like, you make all these apple pies for all your ex-girlfriends, and I've only had your apple pie once. And it's an ongoing joke with us. But so you love baking pies. So what? You start a bakery. So now you start a bakery. So now that you own the bakery, you do lease negotiations, you're hiring, you're firing, you're doing contracts, you're ordering inventory, You're managing people, you're doing the accounting, the taxes, and now what, 5% of your time is baking pies, 95% of your time is on the business, and there's a grind to that. And now when you are baking pies, you're probably tired, you don't love it as much anymore. So I think that what you need to do, Burr, and again, if you end up following your passion in a business, this still applies. You can still win. It's not like you're going to fail. It's stupid for me to say that. Listen, you have to find the vehicle that's going to get you to your goals and dreams. If you just get into business to follow your passion because you want to follow your passion in business and that doesn't have the horsepower to get you where you want to go, you're lost. One of the things that Gary Vee never talks about, and I think that he misses this, is he never talks about start with the end in mind. Like, what do you want your life to look like? What do you want that end to look like? Like, what are you trying to accomplish? Well, I want to make $1 million or $1 million a month. Well, is selling yo-yos going to get you to $1 million a month? Maybe you need a different vertical. Maybe you need a different vehicle. So what I recommend is find a vehicle that's going to get you to where you need to go. You might not love it to begin with, but my God, you find the passion within it. You find the passion within the grind. Start making money, start living the dream. You'll become pretty passionate about that business pretty quick.
Yeah. And I think the disclaimer people need to understand is even if you do get into business for something that you're very passionate about, realize you will not be every day of the week. There's going to be days where your passion turns into your absolute nightmare.
Yeah. Like, hey, let's say you love football. So you want to start a football program. Well, awesome. So you want to start a football program and make 50 grand a year and buy yourself a job? Or do you want to develop football coaches and build a football program that has 20, 30, 40, 50 coaches that operates all over the province, all over the states, and now you're managing a football coaching program? That would be an example of following your passion, but building the business big enough into the vehicle that you need to get you to where you need to go.
Right.
So let's not mistake building a business with being self-employed.
Yeah, 100%.
There's a difference there.
Sick, man. Well, I think that'll wrap it up for today. Hopefully you get some value. If people want more information like this, where else can they find more of your content? Where can they go?
Yeah, hit us up on Instagram, right? Holbrook's World on Instagram. We're on TikTok, LinkedIn, all that stuff. We're on Threads now, right? We're threading, so we'll see you there. But no, appreciate you guys being here today. We're going to keep putting out more content. Jay, do me a favor, right? Give this post some love, share it with your team, send a comment, and reach back out to me and Colton, and we'd love some feedback on what are some topics that you want us to cover on the next podcast. We'll see you guys later. Thanks for being here.